Hey Steve, how you doing?
Oh, doing pretty good. How are you doing? I got a lot of new gadgets I'm playing with. Got a
I'm not hearing any audio.
from me testing.
Yeah, you're not muted, but I'm not hearing any audio.
Okay. Um, well, I'm on a new. Can you hear me now? Hello. Well, you should be able to hear me because I just checked the settings on the iPad Mini and it's got accessed.
Okay, let's try it now. I had something plugged into the speaker port.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I had something plugged into the speaker jack.
Okay, well, let me put this. It's a new iPad Mini 6. And so I was just checking the settings, make sure I turned everything on. Oh, there we go. So I'm playing with a new device. It's a LED light,
Okay,
um, and it. I'll show you here. Leave it on for.
nice and bright.
Yep, it is. It charges in USB port. Want to take some photographs of the models just for the JMRI roster.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got that new mini PC from Geek OM,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty small and seems to do the job. I just got the NEC Power Pro hooked up to it yesterday and LCC. So tonight I was going to work on the desktop remote,
Mm-hmm.
so then I can unplug the monitor and the uh, keyboard and mouse.
Sure.
So, boy, so looking bad nowadays. Liz got through the COVID.
Yeah, she tested negative this morning for the first time. So it's been
Really,
almost
that's
2 weeks.
wow. That's been a long time coming.
Yeah, tell me about it. We've been both been wearing masks in the house and sleep in different rooms and trying to avoid each other.
Wow, and you didn't catch it.
No, I took a test yesterday and it was negative, and I'd taken one earlier in the week and it was negative too. So no, I don't think I caught it.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Um,
we're wondering. I was down at Pat's and for a work session, we were working on some stuff, and we had discussion about one of the guys is speculating that maybe the Moderna vaccine is a little more effective than the Pfizer. Don't know.
I don't know that nowadays you can't believe anything you read.
No, you can't.
Unfortunately, it's there's so much disinformation out there. I don't know. So you released a new version of Cats, I saw 3.0 or
Yeah, I did 3.0, but that was several months ago.
oh, okay. Because I just look at, in the morning I get the email from groups.io and there had been something a couple of days back about 3.0. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting ready for a 3.1. I made a couple changes that had to do with route stacking, and what I want to do is get a chance to test them. I think I will here in a couple of weeks. I think I'll be able to put it on a layout and and test it under real conditions rather than just on my desktop.
Yeah. Yeah. So still thinking about getting a PC.
Yeah, one of these days. I mean, I'm going to have to. It's not urgent because Microsoft is still providing some support for Windows 10, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, I've got two Windows 10 computers and two Windows 11. Well, this new mini PC is Windows 11, and if I think total cost on it was $240.
Yeah, that's a good price.
And that's with like 18 gig of memory and half a terabyte of SSD card. Has the audio and one HDMI outlet, and it runs 35 watts. So that's pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Somehow,
what's do you know what processor speed is?
Yeah, 1.8 gig.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah. I was just looking at you do the task manager, seeing what everything was doing. I've got a flashing record button on this. Am I recording this?
No, this is set up automatically by Eric Smith.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because I was trying to find to turn off, and it said only the host can do that.
Yeah. No, that was part of the agreement, is that he let us use the Zoom website on the condition that he could record it, and then it'll get posted on YouTube here in a few days to a week.
Okay. Well,
so,
I don't think I don't think there's going to be anything exciting about this conversation. So
they usually aren't.
Yeah, I've sat down to watch them when they get posted on YouTube, and occasionally there's some pretty good content. You get people on there who are knowledgeable, and that makes a big difference. So, I continue plugging along with all my different hobbies here.
Yep.
Yeah, it keeps him pretty busy. Sometimes wore out.
Yeah. Yep. That's what retirement's all about, is to pursue your hobbies.
Yeah, certainly is. Yeah. Going to funeral tomorrow. Sherry's last surviving uncle died. Ron down there in Burlington. So go down, give respects to him. And
that's the last of that generation.
Yeah, it is. Her aunts, her uncles, everybody's gone now. So otherwise, not a whole lot new up here. The weather's been pretty good.
Good.
Yeah, it's been warm. Very little snow. So who knows?
Yeah, we've had some nice weather. Then we get 3 or 4 days of kind of cloudy and overcast, and maybe a touch of snow, and then a few nice days. And we're starting another one of those cloudy patterns.
Well, the moderator of this isn't even on.
No,
Okay. Well, it's pretty easy to forget about it. If I hadn't gotten the email yesterday or the day before. Yeah.
yeah, the owner of the group's IO, Jerry, is really good about sending it out a few days ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, Carol up at Caboose Stop Hobbies had a lot of stuff going on. I don't know where she buys these estate sales of it. And sometimes she'll buy out a hobby craft shop. It's just amazing at all the stuff she gets in used. And Ian, the guy that produces that YouTube video, he's a engager, so he's always asking for people with engage stuff to buy.
Oh,
So you might just give it keep it in mind sometime.
yeah, I'll tell you more at the end of this year. Because I'm elected president of the Boulder Club.
Oh, you
And
are?
yeah,
Wow.
it's I worked a deal with Doug saying he said he'd be VP if I'd run for president. I said, yeah, because I didn't want to do VP again. So, but anyway, talking to the last president, he said he was getting a lot of requests, like maybe one a month or something, of people trying to get rid of model railroading stuff. In some cases they'd have like a full layout built in the basement, and they wanted somebody to come over and dismantle it and buy it and stuff like that, and others just donate it. So,
Yeah, you're seeing more and more of that in the print media too. The model stuff, the division, NMRA divisions are even posting articles about it too. What happens to and Tony Bowman took on another estate
mhm.
the first of this year, and he had a huge one first of last year. But I think he used to work at Carroll's up there in
Yeah.
Stop Hobbies when he went to school up there at UNI.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got got an email. He must have blasted something out with
Yep.
a list of all the stuff that he was liquidating and trying to get rid of. At first, I thought it was just, well, maybe the mail system hiccuped and it was repeated the one from last year. But good to know that's a brand new estate that he's clearing out.
Yeah, the first email I got didn't have any list attached, so I replied to him. I'd like to look at the list, but they're not on attachment, and that's so easy to do. Man, I've done it. You go to send something out, and you thought you've had it attached, and yeah.
Or you
Then I
could
see.
you
Go
thought you
ahead.
reply to all and it was only one person, and yeah.
Yep. Yep. And I saw Alan and Ben were up there at his operating station that he just had.
Yeah, I think I saw the opening page on YouTube. I didn't look at the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, it looks like NCE is coming out with new Power Pro.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how much better. Supposedly, you won't have to buy that RS-232 to USB cable. It'll just be USB to USB. I don't know what other things you're going to add to it.
Yeah, I heard that was one of the big complaints I see on the JMRI group with people getting started with NCE is, what do I need to plug it all together?
Well, I just went through that.
Oh,
On that new Windows 10, I didn't have any trouble. Windows 11, the NCE Power Pro is powered on. I hooked up the serial cable to the computer, which didn't have JMRI on it or anything, or Java, nothing. That new one, that new mini PC, and Windows found a driver, but it wasn't the right driver.
Hmm.
So when I installed Java, then I installed JMRI. It worked the first time. The second time, well, it didn't really work. The preferences were okay, but I couldn't see the cabs. I could, all this other stuff. So I got out. I got back in and told me the COM port was busy.
Hmm.
And so I powered off the PC, powered back on. Did this, went through, start up the JMRI, got the same message. So I unplugged the serial cable, the USB from the PC. I went into device manager, deleted the driver, and then I found on the NCE website a zip file, and I unzipped that and had it uh, install the driver, and then I plugged the NCE USB serial cable back in. That worked, but I don't know. Up to that, Darren and I had been struggling trying to get it to work on Windows 11. And, some of those comments people, they just give up on Windows 11 trying to get that serial cable to work. It's crazy. And Daryl had contacted NCE and worked with somebody there, but they just didn't get to satisfaction. So anyway, late last night about midnight, I sent a text message to Darren saying, "Hey, this is what I found, and give it a try."
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I've got some of that's Microsoft's problem because I've got a netbook which is runs Windows 10, but it's really a laptop. I use like a
yeah,
laptop, and every time whenever it does a major update, it wipes out the Wi-Fi card driver.
it
It
does.
updates it to the latest, and it doesn't work. Fortunately, I keep an
Oh,
old copy laying around in a file, and I go back in and I say, yeah, I use this one rather than the new one.
okay. So you're familiar with the device manager and
Yeah,
reloading the drivers. Yeah,
more familiar than I'd like to be.
yeah, yeah. Well, it keeps us busy.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah. No, I thought retiring 8 years ago that I'd be sitting around twiddling my thumbs, but I've gotten so much more involved in hobbies and stuff that, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, we got the rum balls that Liz sent.
Oh,
Sorry
okay,
about
cool.
having to pay $16 for shipping.
What's that?
Those rum balls that I received,
Yeah,
according to the shipping carton, it was $16 to send it.
yeah, that's probably about right.
Wow.
The
That's
expensive rum balls.
yeah. Well, Jane likes them. She goes through them pretty quick. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Hello, Ken. What's up?
Oh,
there.
He's probably trying. There he goes.
yeah.
We got video, Ken. Looks like you're on mute. Think you're on mute, Ken.
That's trouble with
Okay, take two. Yep. Yeah, no, I just got here seeing who made it or not, what's up, that type of thing.
Hello, Ken.
Hello. Oh, okay. There. Get that back. Where'd that go? Oh, there it is. Yep. No, since the semester ended, I've been very busy actually working on JMRI stuff. Some things that mostly to deal with the new PH5 command station from NCE, because it has a whole new memory map. So everything inside JMRI that used memory commands had to learn to use them into a different location.
So Steve, that's probably the new system you were talking about that NCE is coming
Is
out
that
with.
the new replacement for the Power Pro?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, for most people, the overall functionality isn't that different. The major things are, okay, it's not 9-pin serial, it's a USB. It's a
Yeah.
well-known USB. So most of the problems of getting that picked out won't happen. It is download programmable. So they're able to actually release fixes much more easily than sending an EEPROM chip.
Good. Good.
Though the tendency of NCE will still keep that at a fairly slow rate.
Yeah. Yeah. I just went through last night trying to get a new mini PC, Windows 11, hooked to my NC Power Pro. And I scratched my head till I removed the Windows 11 drivers and then downloaded
Ah,
the zip file from NC. And I've searched the NCE groups.io and uh, anyway, I finally figured it out.
yeah, well, generically, that is a issue with a number of them. Uh, that Microsoft will have a device driver that will try to load, and depending on how it's being used, uh, you need a different driver.
Yeah.
Some of these newer ones actually, if the code's right on the other side, it can actually use the standard Microsoft one also. But the truth is, a lot of these came from a long time ago and far, far away. And
Yep.
they did some unique things that, well, modern hardware looks at and goes, why'd you do that? Uh,
Yeah. It's become a
so,
struggle. I had a Canon scanner and I had to go way back to find the drivers for that. And same way with Pacific Image uh, slide scanner. I had it took hours to find the drivers for that to get everything to work. The Canon scanner and then the flatbed scanner and then the slide scanner from PIE. Um, always always a question mark when you deal with Microsoft, I guess.
uh, yeah, it kind of, there's a lot of gotchas out there, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I was actually, I've been quite happy. I had at the beginning of August, my PC flat out died. So we had to extract the drive from it, get a new one, which was now Windows 11, and monkey stuff in. And there are still some loose ends that aren't quite right that, well, I was then getting into a full semester and going, I don't want to touch something during that. I'll wait until winter break and then I'll try fixing things in case some of the fixes don't work so well.
yeah. I just went through my two older PCs and put the new solid state drives in them. Boy, that really speeded those guys up a lot. I'm amazed.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, you go, okay, that kind of makes sense because even with the higher speed drives that were available, it's still Murphy's Law says the block you needed just went past the head. Wait for
Yeah.
the next rotation. And so first that's totally eliminated as a possible delay. And then there was the fact that you still had the head stepping, what
Yep.
track was it on type thing.
You
So
know,
all of those delays suddenly aren't there anymore.
back in the 1980s, I worked on the IBM disk drives. As a technician, I'd have to adjust the heads. And boy, those
Mm-hmm.
things, when they retracted, you didn't want to have your fingers anywhere near. You're going to lose a
Mm-hmm.
finger.
No, no. I remember first time I ran into them, it was back in the service. And let's see, the system was some deck stuff, but it was the washing machine type drives, lift the lid, put the
Yeah,
pack in, put the pack
that's
out.
what I'm talking about.
And I
Those big
think
drives.
at the time, yeah, if I remember right, we were really thrilled because we're able to upgrade from 150 meg to 300 meg.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I, that first 100 meg hard drive I bought for PC was $1,000. It was just it, and I had an Apple II Plus. I paid uh, I think $1,000 for a 16K card, memory card to upgrade it from
That
48 to
sounds about
64.
right.
And that, what you can buy today. I was telling Rodney earlier, I bought a mini PC, the first one, for like $250 from Geek OM, and that
Hmm.
it only takes 35 watts of power. And I'm using
Oh
it
yeah,
on the
you don't have the space heaters anymore.
no, or the fans running all continuously. So, Ken, I wanted to thank you for your participation in the LCC groups.io. There's a lot of stuff out there. People are pretty confused, and I've been confused many times
It,
with that.
it well, it's such a different way of looking at things. Uh, I fully understand why it's it isn't going to be obvious to a lot of people. Okay, here's how you tackle this. Now, what's interesting is uh, our circuits is coming out with a new, it's a tower plus Q node, as they call it.
Yeah.
So greatly expanded space for logical stuff. However, to do that, it's not designed the same way as the old. The whole logic is actually using a open source standard from Siemens that is, let's see what they call it, STL. Uh, um,
Or
it's
PLA.
basic.
Yeah.
It's one of the languages used in some PLCs.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with PLCs, it will actually be a little bit easier to deal with because the way it's orchestrated is you've got a couple of tables that set up the shorthands for the different variables. So you got like input variables, or I think output variables, or why I don't know. And graphic circuits are, outbound this and a different letter for inbound. And then you've got, I think it's like 32 blocks of 4 lines each of 64 characters each. And you're
Oh,
doing things like, you know, A I1 means and I1. And you'd follow it with like AN I2, which would be not I2, equals and set something else. And you would just start chaining these on lines together. What I haven't figured out is how to do the way that we've been doing signals, where, okay, if you've tested this out of your path, you don't need to keep testing it. Um, so, but I've only been doing this for about maybe a week.
These blocks of 4 lines, can you hook them together like you can on the logic cells where they're grouped
Uh,
cells, and then you got the last cell and
that's the thing. There really isn't a group concept as such. There's jumps and other things you can do, but that's some of the stuff I haven't quite figured out yet. Actually, if I go here and here and here, oh, where is that node? It's the MSS node there. Yeah, I've also been playing a lot with MSS for Freemo. And if we do this and we can make the right clicks so I can present, I can show you what one of the screens looks like inside the node. We have a way to do that?
I was talking to Eric about it, and I don't I think we have to have the host online to enable screen sharing.
Ah, actually, let me look at something. If I click this, nope, says host disabled participant screen sharing. Oh well. Yeah, I wasn't sure how we had it set up or not, but get back to here.
Yeah,
No, it's
if you
it's
know how to
16.
if you know how to do that, I think Eric would like to know if we could set it up automatically.
Let's see, from what I remember about Zoom, basically the host, when he sets up the session, he can either designate that any participant can share, or here is the participants that are also presenters that can share. And that's my memory of Zoom. Though I spend enough time bouncing between Zoom, TeamViewer, and Teams, because that's what they like at school, Teams. Um, Trying to keep straight. Okay, can I do that here? Can I do that there? Is all different. But I would say it's a matter of when Eric sets up the session, it's an option that he can enable or disable. And I would have to say that when you're doing a straight out presentation, yeah, you don't really need to have that. You have the 1 or 2 people who are the presenters. But I'd say that, yeah, for some of these open mic nights, that might be a time where, yeah, having it so anybody could share would really be a big plus.
Sure.
Because, hey, I'm having this problem. Well, show it. And then we all look at it and go, oh, that shouldn't happen. But we'd have talked to Eric about that.
Yep.
Because actually, I don't know, it may be depending on what license he's got with Zoom as to what the limits are. Let's see. Now, actually, I might be able to do this. Let's see. Where's the chat window? I might be able to cut or paste something into the chat. And let's see what happens. Now, if I do this and that, let's see. Can I paste a graphic into the chat window? Oh, except it probably comes out horribly small and nobody can see anything. I've just put something out there. And let's see.
You're right. It did come out horribly small.
Yeah, but there's a download button, which will then let you get the, in this case, a PNG. And if I say save that back to myself, and then I go look, I mean, yes, awkward, but voila, hey, that worked. Yeah, so if you wanted to try that, it actually comes up on my screen fairly well. And once you're in like a normal graphics viewer, you've got,
Okay, yeah, I
you know,
see it.
zoom in,
Oh,
zoom
yeah.
out, that type of thing.
Okay, gotcha. Huh.
Yeah. Because like in this,
Oh,
let me know when you got something up.
I'm looking at it. I'm reading it.
Okay.
Same here.
All right. So, yeah. So effectively, what that says is I kind of group my logic just for convenience. Okay, this tab, logic one, is doing the east end. It's a four-way diamond. And the logic says, okay, we're doing an and of just one I 0.1 variable. And if that's true, then set Z 0.0. Then go on and a Y. And if that's true, then you set the Q. Now, those all relate to different pieces, or like the, let's see,
Hmm.
IO ports there. Okay, yeah. Inputs are I's. Outputs are the Q's. A track receiver is a Y, and a track transmitter is a Z. Okay. So effectively what that's saying is, okay, if that input was on, then it's setting the stop. That's what that's mapped to in one of the track circuits. And then this is effectively doing the, okay, if this is not and this is, then you set this one. And if that was not and that was not, then set this. So effectively, that's looking at, in this case, the three input lines from MSS, and they relate to the local block, the next block, the block beyond. And I'm translating that back into, okay, the next signal down the line is either showing clear, advanced approach, or approach. And obviously, if the local block's active, then I don't care what the next signal is. I got a display stop for me. And then the second half of each of those lines, the Y's, let's see, Y was, and the Y is where I'm looking at the signal inside my LCC diamond module cluster. It's like 4 modules big, saying, okay, if that track receiver says is stop, then I'll set the 1 bit saying, okay, pass down the line that the local is kind of occupied. And then looking at Y05, that would be the circuit saying, okay, it's in advance, and how I pass it out the wires on MSS. So I've been around PLCs because while I teach them at school. So once I saw it, looked up the spec from Siemens, it's like, oh, okay, got it. And I got the feeling that with a little bit of work, we'll come up with a graphic interface for this,
Well, that
where,
would, yeah.
yeah, where you're not looking at this line of code, you're looking at something more graphical of, connect my inputs, drive my outputs, and then it distills it and saves this into the node. Uh, and if we pull that off, that'll be really wild. The hardest thing is, so that you can do cut and paste, he purposely made this line kind of on the long side, but only the first 64 characters are saved. So you've got to pay attention to make sure that if you do a write and something fell off the end, you probably had a couple extra characters.
Yeah. Well,
So
Dick, Dick from RR Circuits will tell you he's a hardware guy, not a software guy.
Yeah, me and Rob have some interesting email back and forth, how to get some of the stuff figured out.
Yeah,
Uh, but the potential is using this architecture, it takes up less memory in the chip on the node, and that it may very well be that we can actually come up with a new version for the existing nodes that will program this way, that you'd actually be able to get more programming into a node. Okay. But first, we're going to let this sit and stew for a while until we figure out all the bugs or all of the tricks for how to make good use of this method of programming.
yeah, I certainly would appreciate that because I've got for my signaling, I've got logic cells on tower, logic cells on the signal, and you run out of logic cells in no time trying to if you want advanced approach and all the other functions going on. It takes a lot of logic cells.
Yeah, I think I I I found some ways to scrunch some of it down. I think the worst I have on this one layout, it's a double crossover going into a yard. So on the
Yeah,
near side, you've got the station track, the main line. And on the far side of the crossovers, you've got the main line or going into the yard. And I think it took 9 cells for one of those 4 masts to figure out what it was doing. And that was my worst case.
on this new tower node, are
Yep.
the lines the same?
Oh yeah, you've got
16
the
lines.
two the yeah, 16
Yeah.
lines, that's identical. So any of the existing daughters, plug into it just like anything else.
Track circuits the
So
same.
the
Yeah,
yep.
good, good.
Except since it's a tower, you're able to both, and it doesn't natively have signals on it, but it does have track transmitters.
Yeah,
So you can have logic that does the same thing as what the signal mask does in the rules section on a signal node.
yeah.
And once this,
Yeah.
and also I suspect he'll come out with something like a signal 32 plus Q, which will have this logic and this chip combined with the 32 heads or lamps of the existing signal module. But like I say, if the previous figure will take most of a year to figure out all the different tricks to get the most out of it. Because sometimes you don't figure out a trick until you need it.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
run into a case where, okay, how do I figure this?
yeah. I went through the process of one push button for alternating mode for input, and I gave up on it because I was using
Well,
vetoes, and I know when the veto's on the push button, if you keep pushing it, it continues. So when the veto comes off, then it can be left in unknown state. And
well, well, the trick there, okay, the trick there, as I understand it and have been using it, is okay, you want to do a veto because you're protecting like an occupied turnout, for instance, right? And the
well,
issue is you don't put, do you put the veto on the consumer, i.e., the turnout, or do you put the veto on the push button? And I'd have to go back and look at one of my nodes to see which way I ended up finding worked the right way.
Yeah, see, I wanted the push button vetoed so that if I'm like going in the yard, you might have 8 different push buttons. And
Yep.
I didn't, once I push a push button, then it sets a timer so no other push buttons will be accepted. And that's why I wanted to veto the push buttons. And then the timer
Right.
times out, and then it actually then the veto goes off. Anyway, uh, doing that alternating just did not work out at all. So I went a
Okay,
different route.
because yeah, let's see. This one wouldn't be the good example. That one would be a good example. Okay, here's the case. I've got 4 different push buttons that command a single turnout on this module set. And 2 of them aren't on the same node, the buttons.
Right. Yep.
Because you have a diamond, so you got 4 legs, and that means you got 4 different ways you might approach it. But from whichever direction you were coming, yeah, you might need to operate that turnout. So how to get buttons everywhere. Let's see what I did. Um, there we go. Okay, I set it up as alternating. I set it up where the producer is a gated on non-veto input, non-veto off, gated off for my first 2 events. And then, okay, yep. So the producers are gated, but the veto is one of the consumers. And let's see, that's a 30, yeah. And basically the event 1, event 2 for both the input and the output, consumer and producer, those are the same. And then I added the 2 other event 5 and 6 to have, okay, here's veto on, here's veto off. And that's on the consumer line, not on the producer side. And it does the right thing, though it also depends on how updated the flash was in the node.
Yeah, because that was a firmware change that he made too.
Yeah, because the one change allowed the inputs and basically the turnouts and the buttons to stay in sync sensibly. So yeah, like I say, I've got that working where there's 4 doing one turnout, there's 2 doing another turnout. They're on different sides. And then I've got a panel that's on either side of the one module because it's a 5-track throat. And there it got a little trickier because you push the button, everything goes dark. It operates the turnouts, and then it relights the green on the button that is now the active route. There was something about where I was trying to have it where it left the button as red until it finished resolving it, and that didn't quite work so well. Or I ran out of logic. I can't remember which, but it's working at the moment.
Yeah, a combination of the 2.
Yep. Yeah, I feel kind of sad that I haven't been able to find, convince a local layout to try doing something with cats. The one layout that would actually be a good choice, well, 2 years ago, we finished building a physical USNS dispatch panel for it. And it's just so beautiful. It'd be a shame not to use it. I've got two other layouts that are possibles, but biggest thing is they have some of the OS turnouts that aren't independently detected, and that's a royal pain doing much anything with. And Cats basically is vehemently opposed to that, which is actually, I'd say, yes, they're just being honest. You can't do this right if you can't tell when somebody's on the turnout versus on the main line.
Yeah, I was thinking we had somebody come on a couple months ago and we were talking about that. And I was thinking, there's actually a fairly simple way to get around it. And that is to use, rather than a block detector over the turnout, use an optical. And that'll tell you when there's something on it. And so you basically split that long thing into into two separate blocks.
Yeah. But once again, to the layout owner, well, I have to add hardware to my layout just to support the dispatching. And some of them hesitant. That's the word, hesitant.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And my reply to that is, how much does a detector cost you? How much does a modern day boxcar, go to the hobby store and buy it, cost you? And you'll find the detector is probably less than the boxcar.
Yeah. No, I'd have to
And every
agree that it's
train that goes over the layout goes through that turnout, whereas that boxcar may run
Mhm.
once in a session,
Yep.
which is more bang for
Yeah.
the buck.
But oh yeah, I mean, logic prevails wonderfully, but the overall cheapness of too many model railroaders, to the point of, if you figured out what your time was worth for what you did, you're working for pennies. But that won't dissuade some people from doing things certain ways. Okay.
So Rodney, I
So
was curious. Do you have any large public layouts that use cats?
Public. The, I don't know if you would call it public, but there's Lehigh and Keystone Valley, and I want to say Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It's a club, but so it's not like in a museum or anything like that. And that is a big layout. I've seen this. It's like 6 monitors, so the thing is
Wow.
huge, and they're big monitors. It's not like little 19 inches or anything like that. That
Yeah.
is, to my knowledge, the largest.
Okay, because in my area, there's several large um, layouts being constructed. Iowa City has the Hawkeye. Quad Cities has a new building, Davenport, that they're building. Savannah, Illinois has the existing layout. But I was just curious. That's what I meant, public layouts. You got to get into Greeley, into that museum.
Yeah,
it's a
the
nice museum.
It is.
I've
It's
been
what.
all I've been all under that thing.
the
Is when I
problem with it
visited.
is what Ken was just talking about. They've got a beautiful CTC machine.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I say, I was all under that layout, because when I visited, like, oh yeah, you got scenery. Now let's look at the good stuff. So it was like, how are they wiring things? How are they doing some of the controls? The one trick for like fascia mounted stuff, those plastic lock boxes you see on thermostats in like schools and everything. That's what protects the local controls. So the train crews just go along with their key, open the box, do something, lock the box, walk on. And some of the stories of what they had to go through building that place. The biggest was the trouble with the zoning guy until he finally got it through the guy's head that yes, here's steps going down and up in the middle of this big giant floor, but they will be protected later when we put the layout on top of it. No, they're not. They're not a trip hazard. They're they're going to be behind and under stuff. And once he got that idea, then things went fairly well.
Yeah, I was up there while they were building it, and the founder, Dave Troxel, was talking with Doug Geiger, who built the machine. And Doug said, "You want to come up and see what's going on?" And I said, "Sure." And so we were up there, and they hadn't had everything in yet, and so it wasn't empty, but it was mostly just bench work. And we were up there, and Dave was talking about the cost of heating that place, and he says something like $1,000 a month in the
Wow.
winter. It was outrageous. And one of his helpers said, "Well, let me go out and look." And so he went out back and was where the natural gas feeds went into it. And so pretty soon we walked outside because Dave wanted to show us. He had I think it was a Rio Grande boxcar or something. He said, "You want to see this?" We said, "Sure." We walked out. As we're going back in, the guy who was looking the things over said something, said, "Well, I think I found the problem. You got a gas leak here." And meanwhile, he's got this cigarette and, he's puffing away on it. I said, "Okay, we got to get out of here. This place is going to blow up."
Yeah, of course, actually, a lot of buildings, when they're still building them, yeah, all the airflow isn't right, the insulation isn't the right places. Yeah, they'll eat propane tanks for like marshmallows. Because I've been on a lot of construction sites where, trying to keep things warm because, okay, well, we need this floor to set, so it needs to get heated for 15 days. And the salamanders will be breathing a lot.
So Ken, we just opened up the Rocky Op website. So weekend of operating. It will be May 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever it is, first weekend in May, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Mhm.
So spread the word. If you're interested in coming to Colorado for a weekend of operations, then
Is
check
it
out
north
the
or south this year?
South is basically disbanded.
Oh,
There's not enough interest, so this will be north. So it's got the big layouts. It's got Doug Geiger's and John Parker and Dave
yeah.
Stewart and a lot of those kinds of layouts.
Yeah, I visited and or operated on Parker's. Oh, every time I've been in the state, either it was at least stop by, look at what he's got going during some of the construction phase, and there's been at least 2 or 3 op sessions.
Yeah, I'm usually there, so I think I've seen you.
Yeah, and couple of the other layouts here and there around the north side. Okay.
So Rob,
Well,
how are things
anybody else?
going with you?
Happy New Year to you guys. Hope all is well. Ken, I'll get to see you in 3 weeks at Springfield, so I'll leave my questions till then.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Like I say, it's a matter of if I'm not at my desk, it's either because I'm in the young building giving a clinic, or I'm
Mhm.
over at the Fremo layout in Mallory because there's a problem. I get my
Yeah,
exercise.
yes, you do. Yeah, you're running amongst all the buildings there, so Yeah, I'll definitely be at your clinic at noon there. So looking forward to it for sure.
Yep.
No, we're doing all right there, Rodney. Actually, nothing new on the CAT's end, but we have our second section of LCC all completed. And all the signaling is working great. So it was kind of ironic. I come in and it sounds like an LCC Zoom chat, not a CAT Zoom chat when I came in there. You guys talking about vetoes and gates and everything else. I'm like, oh, that sounds familiar, and it's not CAT related. So I had to laugh at that. But
Well,
no, we're doing pretty well. Doing well.
Well, the open
well,
mic
the
is an
other
open
Rodney-
mic, anything.
What's
like-
that?
if
I was gonna say the open mic is an open mic. Anything goes, including the cost of shipping rum balls from Colorado to Iowa.
we got to get you to Massachusetts, Rodney, for the train show. That would be even better. That's what the other Rodney and I want, is to meet you at Springfield. That's what we want. But no, he's working tonight, by the way. That's why he's not on the call. But no CATS questions right now. Like I said, we're in between sections of LCC stuff going in, but that all went in flawlessly. We've had no issues, so it's fingers crossed. And Steve, Rodney had mentioned about the Lehigh Keystone layout. I visited there in 2018, and the place is unbelievable. And we know a few of the guys that operate there and maintain things there, and it's spectacular. It really is. And Mark Samuelson, who maintains the CAT screen, along with Anthony Raspertini, they'll be at the Springfield show too. We're hoping to run into them. But yeah, they do a wonderful job there, and it's pretty crazy walking into their office with 6 whole screens and everything going. You know, it's pretty impressive, I gotta say.
Wow.
And like Rodney said, I don't know of a layout with a bigger screen than that on CATs. That's the biggest one I know of.
Yeah, but biggest thing I'd say about like a 6-screen CAT is, well, that's still only one mouse
Correct.
and keyboard
Mhm.
for everything.
Yep.
And at some point, you kind of have to start going, okay, where do you really have to have 2 systems and a handoff?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Especially with them doing 3 different railroads on one layout.
yep. And in some parts, I'd say that's a very valid thing to model. Where, yeah, 2 dispatchers have to coordinate with each other. Hey, I got this coming at you, et cetera, to get from one division to another or one railroad to another. That's something that is right up there on the near the top of the list of things that people never model.
Mm-hmm. And Rodney, you've done a great job being able to seamlessly transition between one desk and another too. That's very impressive what you've done with the software where you're able to do that. But yeah, like you said, Ken, a lot of people don't utilize that, and it's obviously very realistic. Obviously, all the prototypes do it. So
I know one system we're doing TT and TO. 3 different times we had an op session where I had to write a turnover and hand it off to somebody else in the middle of the session. And they found that very interesting. One time was, no, I actually had to leave. Another time was, well, there was a technical issue and it was easier to impromptu quickly do that so then I could go look at the other problems. That actually had nothing to do with the dispatching, but some strange electronics. And it was kind of interesting, but since we did a continuous clock on that layout, bouncing over a 2-week period, yeah, kind of like the road show. And I generally would write a note of a turnover, if anything, just to remind myself here's where we are, here's what's going on if we don't happen to have a session for a month through 3. Because sometimes it's weather, sometimes it's owner sickness, you name it. You'd have some of these layouts that you're doing like regular every 4 weeks, and then suddenly you get back in there and you go, okay, it's been 18 weeks, like 4 months or something. So, yeah, I don't have anything else really.
No, same. I just wanted to check in and say hello to everybody. And glad everybody's doing well.
Okay, Rodney, you think just pack it up now, or?
I'm about ready to, because I think that my dinner is just about ready, so not going to be here much longer.
Yeah, I'd say call it night. We'll see.
Good to see
We'll
y'all.
see when we're talking
good
and
to see you.
seeing each other again and where and so forth. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So have a good night.
Have a good
too.
night, Ken. I'll see you at Springfield. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care. Good night, guys.
Good night.